listening to a guy preaching, don't want to bring up his name, but he's saying, basically, the Democrats and Republicans, they just need to be kinder to each other. Well, that's not the issue, is it? It's not about civility here. It's about truth. How, you want to be kind? Do you think that the Allies should have been more direct in dealing with the Nazis? Or should they have had a seat at the table for the Nazi perspective? You understand there's a time when the issue isn't civility and kindness, the issue is courage and truth. And courage and truth are what the battle lines are right now. Well, anyway, does that make sense now that I've explained this?
Yeah, I think that's really helpful, especially how I think the brainwashing kind of works on the American psyche of, because you could put the WHO down there as well. It's basically any large government agency that says the science says, the facts say, the truth is, and then it gets propagated.
And the WHO, the World Health Organization, which, by the way, is just part of a larger manipulation of this. Intelligence communities. Remember, where did we get this Russian thing from? Oh, the Steele dossier. Who's Steele? Christopher Steele is still doing commentary on current events. I can't believe this. Cat's running around and being interviewed as an authoritative. He cooks it up. The dossier. He's part of the intelligence apparatus of the globalists over in England. So our deep state FBI, CIA guys get in touch with their deep state FBI guys and say, hey, listen, we need a little dirt. We can't bring it. It can't come from us. It has to come from the intelligence community over there. So they come up with a story. The big disgrace that no one's going to talk about is John McCain, who gets memorialized and made a virtual saint in his death. McCain made sure the Steele dossier got to the FBI. They made sure a Republican deep state senator who hated Trump carried it in a briefcase and presented it to Comey and said, oh, while I was over in Europe, wink, wink, I ran across an interesting story, wink, wink. Here, you ought to look into it. Comey says, thank you, wink, wink. I think I have something from a Republican who's concerned about Trump. See how the story goes?
But didn't it also lead to wiretapping of Trump's phones when he was running for office? I mean, I think for me too, it's really eye-opening in terms of how the left operates, that if you are an honest candidate and you really do want to just do this altruistic thing, I mean, it's not like Trump had to do this. I mean, he had all the success he needed in the world. It wasn't like, yeah, I'm also going to be president now. He didn't need money. He didn't need any more influence or power, but he was trying to do it. He was like, now's the time to run because of the condition of America. But I just end up thinking that it's this is how the left will operate no matter who it is. So I think it's important to have eyes wide open, saying they're going to lie about you. They're going to do a 2-year investigation. What was it, $40 million for them to do the entire
and the whole American
the
whole government.
Yeah.
It didn't deal with borders. It didn't deal with the opioid crisis, which is China basically making a fortune off of fentanyl coming through the mafia, the cartels working on the border. I think with corrupt intelligence agencies that are actually making money off this too. They got the thing set up so nobody's exposing anything. No one's dealing with anything. That's why this fake news cycle of you should be outraged that your government was paralyzed by design. So nothing got done. And that's why we have to have a bowling ball go hit all the pins in Washington. Yes, Carl.
There's an excerpt here from a Matt Taibbi article that just came out last week. Clinton and her campaign systematically lied throughout, both about collusion and about their involvement in disseminating popular theories about it. We know this for a fact. The Democratic National Committee and the Clinton campaign recently agreed to pay a $113,000 fine to the Federal Election Commission for concealing their role in producing the Steele research, a role, by the way, her campaign never admitted to and which was only disclosed through dogged effort by the House Intelligence Committee nearly a year after the 2016 election.
Now this is like one of those stories that nothing to see here. Oh, yeah, there's a ton to see here.
Right.
You're saying that the Democratic National Committee paid a fine for its role in originating and passing on a fake dossier?
It was they had to pay the fine for concealing their role in producing the research.
For concealing their role, even worse.
Right.
In a functioning democracy, that would be the #1 story on all media right now. And the outrage of the week wouldn't be over the paralyzed performance of the police department in a shooting in Texas. It would be about the paralyzed performance of justice in the Capitol in exposing corruption in the intelligence community. Well, a community that is more dangerous than anyone else, because presidents are only there for a couple of years. These guys are there for life.
Yeah, I don't think it's just the intelligence committees, though. I think it kind of is evident of a systemic problem in our country. It's not just the elected representatives, it's also the volunteers, like the police force, who are just not doing what they're supposed to be doing or preventing other people from doing what they know they could do.
Yeah, the next disgrace is the Capitol Police in Washington. They're an extension. They're like the stormtroopers for the Death Star. And these guys just got $1 billion worth of money. Imagine a local police department getting $1 billion, like a $1.2 billion increase in funding because of the insurrection. No, you're paying off the corrupt unions that work in the police department arena. It's kind of like, I understand what happened to Glenn Beck. Mm-hmm. Glenn Beck used to remember his show on Fox, and it was kind of like, and it was he had an element of urgency about Obama but conviviality. But the more he got into exposing the intricacies, and the more he saw on the corruption, when he picked up the lid and saw what was inside the pot, the more it just sobered him, and it caused him to become really concerned. Unfortunately, he started going after Trump. He was worried about Trump, but that's why I have my hammer and my shark, and I've got my George Soros. I have to have my whimsical way of dealing with these things, because I've got to remember that the way that you deal with these powerful forces is you must mock them. You have to eliminate their power to intimidate you. Which is why the comedians are so important, which is why we celebrate a Bill Maher clip. How many of you guys are passing around little Bill Maher clips? Anytime, 80% of the time, the guy's a screwball with his anti-Trump obsession. He's like Glenn Beck in his old days, worried about Trump. But every now and then he'll step up and say, what's with this transgender thing? 45% of Gen Z identify as transgender. They don't know if they're a boy or a girl. He said, and why is it California has like 60% or 50% of its 11 to 15-year-olds that way, but Ohio only has 3%? Is this like something in the water out there, or is this a psychologically induced marketing phenomena that is tearing apart the identity and stability of young people? Yeah, Bill Maher said it. Sorry to say Joel Osteen won't say it. Joel's doing his job, being positive and preaching Jesus. But you have to have somebody say it, and the comedians, the Joe Rogans on their podcasts, the Jordan Petersons, he's so beat up though. He's so refined and elegant. He doesn't want to get involved with these demonic arguments anymore. But you thank God for the courageous front line that'll get out there and say something. And the comedians are the last line of defense. And I think Chappelle he did a very nuanced and gracious kind of bit of humor on transgender. But if you really want to hear a vulgar but right to the point, courageous discourse on transgenderism, listen to Ricky Gervais. It's so raw. I could not recommend it to most of my Pentecostal followers. But if you have the capacity to appreciate the courage of a comedian coming out of the closet for what is true, thank God Ricky Gervais is fully out, because we need comedians to tell the truth. Unleash the comedians, because they mock the pretentiousness of these elites. Any other thoughts over there? Jonathan, you've been strangely quiet. I know that you're more of a man of peace, I know, and you're not one that likes to stir the pot of controversy. But I do think you ought to go on record. Here's your thoughts before we finalize this segment.
No, totally agree with it. I'm just over here taking notes. I think it's a great point. I did. I personally, I've got through about like the first 20 minutes of Ricky Gervais's newest special, and then had to put a pause on it. So I'll have to retake a look at it.
No, don't. I'm not suggesting anyone take a look at it. I'm not suggesting any of you take a look at it. I'm merely doing the job. I do this so that you don't have to.
Okay.
I listen, and by the way, I listened to like a 3-minute segment, so I didn't listen to 20. You went into the radiation chamber there. I wasn't going that far. I just listened to 3 minutes, but he was hitting hard, and I guess he was doing that as in a Netflix special.
Yeah,
it's
and Netflix is allowing that.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Their new stance is
We support comedians.
Yeah,
we stand with the truth tellers.
Well, they lost like 60% of their market share, and I guess, and that was not a little bit of that was because they backed off of Chappelle when their employees complained and staged a news protest. About 12 of them against Chappelle. And I think Netflix finally went back and did what I think Disney is going to have to do. And that is, man, are we in the business of pushing a religion, or are we in the business of making money? Hey, I hope you've enjoyed what you've heard so far. This is just a segment out of our entire podcast, but I'd love to give you access to the entire broadcast. And it's going to be at lancewallnau.com/podcast. Go there and you can sign up and get the entire unedited, uncensored message. You know, I wrote a book and I talked about Haggai, the prophet, talking about God is going to shake all the nations, including economic systems. And then just recently I got challenged by a verse. It says, the silver is mine and the gold is mine. And I began to think, you know what? I'd hate to find out there was a promise and a warning here on silver and gold, and I never even thought about it. And that's the reason why I want you guys to do something right now. You want to get a 20-page special report on silver and gold. Go to lancewallnau.com/Birch, because Birch Gold is one organization that is being used by a lot of very credible people right now in order to position themselves with silver and with gold. You need to now start to look into this and learn what it is that maybe God was trying to say, that the silver is mine and the gold is mine. Go to lancewallnau.com/Birch and find out for yourself.